Hi, I'm Brian T. Jackett from our Copilot CPX team. In this quick video, we're going to walk you through a little bit of what I did last week with our FHL program. Took a MCP server for a graph, combined it together with VS Code, took some open source data that's available on the web, and was able to ingest that data in through a Copilot connector. This is some subway data coming from some open source data on the New York State. With inside of this, you can see they've got a sample set of different columns that are available to this, things that we're going to be using for our schema. We also got some data that's going to be ingested into this. Now, I've already run these things just for the sake of speed, so we can actually see what's happening with this. In the case I want to start out with this, I want to be able to go and create a new custom graph connector inside of my environment. So I can give it a name, give it a description, and inside of our MCP server, this is going to call it to laka.dev. More information you can find on this online. Essentially, it's going to be able to convert those natural language processes, prompts that we have, and put them into the graph requests that are going to be available behind this. So when I first issue this request, you'll notice that there's gonna be some actual errors with this in terms of, hey, the information that needed to come back from this, you can see in the error message on here, the connection ID does not able to actually have hyphens inside of there. So there's ways that we can be able to look at what are some suggestions from this. The response coming back out of here, we can see that, hey, it actually tells us what that error was, and it gives me a suggestion for maybe modifying what the connection ID is. Go ahead and proceed with this. And so on our subsequent request, it's going to call that same graph endpoint for this, but this time with the updated values inside of the ID on here. And you'll see this one actually does succeed. So great that we're able to actually call a graph endpoint using just simple natural language queries. Next, we want to define our schema for this graph connector. So in this case, I'm going to go out to the actual web page for this, be able to crawl that information, and come back with a schema that's going to be suitable for me to ingest into Microsoft Graph. You can see that this has actually come up with a fairly decent approximation of our schema. So we're going to go ahead and apply that into our connection. And it will have a couple of issues you'll see in terms of the underscores that it sees in some of the properties that are up here. And it'll actually give me some suggestions for changing those things into using camel case for those. And then we can go and say that we want to be able to get some data from the endpoint for this. Now, I could go to the web page itself to try and scrape that data out, but instead I decided, what if I actually go against the API endpoint for this? They do offer this data set available in a JSON format. So I can go and grab the first two items off of that API feed on there, convert them into items that are going to be suitable for our schema. And when it first attempts this, again, you'll see some additional issues with the invalid characters that are inside of those things, only allowing alphanumeric characters for them, tries again, and then we get to find out that there's actually some issues with the ACL, the access control list. In this case, do I want this to be available for all users, or do I only want to be scoped to specific users of my tenant? So since I want to make them accessible to everybody, what it will do is apply the everyone ACL. So as you can see, very quick way for us to be able to use MCP, Graph, together with Copilot connections, and for a user, literally not having to write any kind of code, and be able to actually see that information showing up inside of Copilot. So really cool use case here. Thanks for watching.